I reconvene the meeting of October 9th Santa Barbara Unified District Board. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Spanish interpretation of today's meeting is available to the public. Please indicate if you wish to receive interpretation.
Buenas tardes, tenemos interpretación al español. Por si gustan una pieza de equipo, la tenemos en la mesa de afuera o pueden levantar la mano y yo les llevo una. Gracias.
Headset for the hearing impaired are also available. Please indicate if you need a headset. Now I'll go to the announcement of our closed session action. On item B4, in closed session, the board took action to terminate a classified employee. Motion was made by Ms. Parker, seconded by Mr. Paredes Ulloa. The vote was a unanimous vote. I also want to let you know that due to the fact that Dr. Reed is not here tonight, the unanimous vote will be 4. Thank you. And next we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Good evening, staff, community. We moved the board meeting here to La Cumbre Junior High because one of the items on the agenda tonight is a request to consider the naming of this theater after Joanne Keynes. Joanne walked these halls for many years, and in so many ways I think the staff and the students still feel her presence in this building. So we thought it was very appropriate that this board meeting be held in this theater, and the board looks forward to that conversation. And then I'll also share, we had a celebration of a new facility at Harding this week, and the finished outcome for that small school community was tremendous, and it was great to share the results of really Measure J, the facility bond, and the benefits that our students are feeling. So we will continue to thank our voters and taxpayers for that support, because kids are going to feel it in all of our schools. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Masuoka. Next, are there any board comments and correspondence? Okay, hearing none. Public comments on non-agenda matters within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. Do we have any public comments? Okay. Moving right along tonight. So the next, may I have a motion to accept the donations, acceptance of donations?
I move to approve with gratitude the donations.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we'll be moving to the consent agenda. Are there any items any of the board members would like to pull? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the general consent?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so we're just a little bit ahead of our public hearing. We have a time approximate 6:45, so can we open that public hearing, or? We got 6:40. Right. This meeting is going almost as fast as I talk, so I'm right in the right place. So we'll open the public meeting for naming of the La Cumbre Theater honoring Joanne Keynes.
So to our board, the request to consider the naming of this theater in honor of Joanne Keynes. Lauren Bianchi-Clement did some history and research into not only this building, but also Joanne's life and service. And so that resolution is included in the board packet. And we would welcome any public comments about Joanne Keynes and her legacy in our school district, and especially on this west side. But most importantly, to give the board a chance to discuss and consider the naming of this space after Ms. Keynes.
Hello, my name is Casey Cowart, and the principal at Franklin Elementary. In 2006, I entered a graduate program to be a school principal, and one of the jobs description of the program was to interview and find a mentor teacher or principal to help you through the year. About 3 months later, I was in an ADL event, and I ran into Joanne Keynes. And I walked up to Joanne and I said, "Hello, I'm an elementary school teacher. I want to be a principal. Can I follow you?" Joanne messed with her gold bracelet and said, "Come to the trenches anytime." Since 2006, we developed a friendship, and that does a lot of complaining, sometimes cussing, but most of the time it ended up being champions for kids. So over the course of the years, I always knew that I wanted to follow Joanne in her trenches. So tonight, I ask that I'm in support of this because this is Joanne's trenches. She was very proud of the renovations that happened to this theater, and she was very proud of her sparkling hallways, and I'm still jealous of, and she was very proud of the teams that she would build. Along with that, now as a parent of a La Cumbre child, I see that she might physically not be here, but she's still in her trenches. From the Renaissance days to the Carpe Diem at the beach to the hallways of students with no hats and no gums and no cell phones, turn it off. It's great. So seeing it as a parent, but also as a colleague, I just support 100% because I think physically she might not be here, but definitely in Joanne's style, this is her trenches, and it's deserving of her wonderful work over many decades with children. And she was a champion for kids, and it's a great way to recognize her. Thank you.
Hearing no additional public comments, Board.
If I may, Ms. Sims-Moten, we'll get used to this setup tonight. I know that we will talk more about it. This is a public hearing, so this is really a chance for members of the public to speak. We will talk more about it. We talked more about it at our last meeting, and we will talk more about it again at our next meeting when I hope that it will be on for action for this board. But I had brought it forward for all the reasons that Ms. Kilgore mentioned. This particular space was really very important to Joanne Keynes. And it was a pride and joy for her when it got renovated. And she felt its importance on the west side, and its importance on the west side, and she felt its importance for the Santa Barbara community in general. We have multiple buildings throughout our district, our secondary district in particular, that are named for, typically posthumously, for educators who went above and beyond. And we can see that on many of our sites. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to move forward with this at our next meeting. It is, I think it will mean a lot to the La Cumbre community and the West Side community in general.
Ms. Capps.
I just want to, again, appreciate the speed by which we are taking this up. I know that oftentimes when someone legendary and so impactful passes, that it can take years to honor them in this way. And I think that for the students that are here, and I've heard this directly from two, that to do this quickly and, again, to take it up in our next meeting means that source of pride that they have about their principal who, as Casey said, isn't here physically but still looms so large. That could be done in this school year for the students who have experienced her and then to live on in the future. So just to sort of speak to the pace by which this is happening, I appreciate that we're having this hearing tonight and that we can take this forward in our next meeting.
Thank you. Any more additional comments?
So we have a public speaker, teacher from...
I just want to
Okay.
echo the comments by my fellow board members and just as I've already said, I did meet Joanne as an employee of the district. I met her as a program manager, as a director, coming from the outside, from the community. And again, even from the outside, you could see the passion, the commitment, and the dedication that Joanne had to the school and to her students. And again, I think it's only appropriate. So again, looking forward to seeing this hopefully on the agenda pretty soon.
Request to speak, it's Cha.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for taking our paper so late. Joanne would have killed us. But we just felt, as a staff, we wanted to say something. Nobody prepared anything, and I didn't think I was going to choke up, but she's so present, and she was such a power, and she was such a champion for this West Side, and the whole community has lost such an incredible woman. You know, this time in our lives with what women are going through, she was so formidable, and she touched so many lives, both other women and young boys, and it was always about showing character. It was always about your character and how you behaved, and she can't be replaced, and this is extremely thoughtful of you and the community to donate this as her namesake. As a staff, we completely appreciate that, and we appreciate all the support that Mr. Makwo has given to us over the last, I don't even know how long it's been now, 3 months, 4 months, I don't know, but thank you. Anybody else want to?
Okay, no, we're all crying, but I think we all agree.
Okay, so hearing no additional requests to speak, I can now close this hearing. I will now open the meeting for the second reading of the sunshining of the Santa Barbara Teachers Association proposal for successor contract negotiation with Santa Barbara Unified School District. Mr. Matsuoka.
I'll have Dr. Becchio offer some comments.
Brought to you last board meeting, the articles that the Santa Barbara Teachers Association intends to open with for negotiations after the first of the year. It is hours and conditions, teacher workday, designation, co-teaching language, and teacher on special assignment language. So this is the second reading, and we will be looking to bring it back for action at the next board meeting.
Any comments from the board? Good? Okay, thank you, Dr. Becchio. I think we can now close this public hearing. So just a little bit ahead of our next one. It's Resolution 2018-19-14 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for the elementary education. Dr. Ramirez?
Good evening, Board. I'm bringing this resolution. Sit up. You have it in your board packet, I'm sorry. I'm bringing forward this, we are bringing forward this resolution for you to consider regarding sufficiency of instructional materials. Just in support of the documents, or in further elaboration of the documents you received. Many of you on the board have heard this presentation in the past, and just to give you some background and context to this, this particular list does identify adoptions that have been with us for an extended period of time, as we have moved forward into a new era around Common Core, around new state standards, next generation science standards, a new social studies and social science and social studies framework. We recognize that there is a transitional period that is still underway. Over the last couple of months, we've been in close contact with our county office around this piece. And we got a great deal of good language and good opportunity to discuss where we are relative to instructional materials. I want to identify for the board and for the community that part of this has evolved into, as it indicates there, curricular frameworks, which are much more expansive than simply the instructional materials. And we have identified additional materials that we are transitioning to and currently have in place to help with the transition to new standards and new methodologies. So I just wanted to provide that bit of context and answer any additional questions you may have.
Any comments, or Ms. Capps?
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. I just think because we have so many members of the public here, I do think it's an important just process note to recognize that we do have these hearings so that the public is invited to review the curriculum before it's purchased. Is that correct? Could you just elaborate and take us back maybe one or two steps and then forward one step from here so that we understand the community's involvement in our curriculum?
Sure. So this particular resolution is intended to simply declare that we have sufficiency of materials. And so it is not, it is certainly a place for the public to weigh in, to ask questions, to put forward their comments. But this is not an adoption. If there has been any change, it would be reflected here. Okay. And in an adoption process, we would have a specific part of that, have input and have input from the public, and we would have to notify much the same way we're doing now. But that is not what's called for at this moment. This simply would be a resolution indicating that we have materials that satisfy and are intended to support the onboarding of new curricular frameworks and new standards. And to that end, we are in a bit of a transition in that there are adopted materials that are coming online primarily at the secondary level, but we're working through those. And then there are others that are in use currently that we are making additional decisions about. One of those that you've heard a great deal about are the level libraries and the onboarding of units of study, which are not just about the instructional materials, but rather about an entire pedagogical design and shift, which are intended to satisfy the English language arts and literacy standards. In addition to that, in the elementary space, we have Engage New York as a transitional set of materials in kindergarten through 5. In science specifically, we have full option science sequence, which has been with us for a number of years. So I think one of the things that we're working through right now is how to formalize that in a way that that the public would understand and receive, collaboration with our teachers, as well as just addressing the distinctions that happen by way of compliance. And that's where the consultation happened over several months with our county office that has given us a great deal of information about how to address it.
Thank you. So there are opportunities if a parent is curious about curriculum to go and actually view, but that's a different process than what we're adopting.
Correct. If we were going through a formalized adoption process, the way it is laid out in board policy, there would be a designated time and space to be able to provide those opinions as members of the public and also as parents and families.
But this resolution today is just sort of a status check that we're compliant.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for explaining.
Additional comments? Ms. Parker?
So just to clarify, Dr. Ramirez, this is the public hearing tonight. Is this going to be on for action at our next agenda?
That's that. Provided that the board is supportive, that would be the case.
Great, thank you.
Any comments? Okay, no additional board public comments? Okay, I now declare this hearing closed. Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. I'd like to open up our next hearing, Resolution 2018-19-17 regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for secondary education. Ms. Carey?
Good evening, members of the board and Mr. Matsuoka. I get to follow Dr. Ramirez, and so therefore I get to piggyback on a lot of the framing commentary that he provided regarding the state's status in terms of curricular materials and the processes we use in considering and formally adopting ultimately any specific set of instructional materials, as well as echo the theme of still being in a transition phase. There are a couple of notable differences for secondary, and he pointed to a couple of those. You have been members of this board and have approved adoptions in secondary math and also for world languages. So those are two areas in the secondary space where you'll see more recent adoptions. And then you'll see in other academic areas, you can see the specific adopted materials and their alignment to the State Board of Education, their status as far as whether they're in current use, as well as our testifying to the sufficiency of them. And at this point, I'm here to answer any questions or respond to any comments you might have.
Any questions from the board? Additionally, this is a public hearing, so this is also the opportunity to have any comments from the public. Are you going to be bringing this back for action at the next meeting? Okay.
Yes.
Seeing no additional comments, I declare this hearing closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carey. So we'll be moving to our action agenda with our first item, the approval of the contract with Just Communities at Central Coast. Mr. Matsuoka, will you open this up?
I will provide some opening comments, and then we have many public comment speakers, so I'll offer some framing comments, and then I think we'll turn to public comment. So I think it was 3 school board meetings ago, the board had a discussion about the framework of the contract. At that time, it was an MOU. The board expressed some requests of staff in I would say a rewording of the MOU into a contract form, so that has been accomplished. And just there's some of the requests that the board asked for about evaluation, about making it a more formal contract. And so a lot of that has been incorporated in the contract that's now before you. And I will allow the board to now receive the public comment. And then when we get to the actual contract, Ms. Carey will walk you through the framework of the contract and respond to any questions.
Okay, so we have many speakers tonight. I think of over 50 or so that we're not here for several hours. We are going to reduce the time from 3 minutes to 90 seconds. I know some of you have prepared 3-minute remarks. You are very welcome to send us those by email, and we do read them. But in the interest of all of our time, we're going to do this at 90 seconds. Also, in the interest of time, I'm going to be calling 3 at a time so that you can make your way down to either podium. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce any names. I'll do my best. So first, we are going to have Abby Hogan, followed by Paul Freeman, followed by Reverend Mark Aspen. You can begin.
Hi, my name is Abby Hogan. I'm a parent in Santa Maria, California, and I just wanted to express my support for Just Communities. I went through the PETA program, and we built bridges of understanding with different types of parents, and it was a great experience, and I'm on the board in North County now, so I strongly encourage you to sign the contract.
Thank you. Paul Freeman. And I forgot to say that I will be giving a 30-second warning when we get to that stage, so if you hear me.
Do I look like someone that's going to use more of my time?
You might.
It might be the case. Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to read an email that I sent a little bit earlier to you all, just for public statement. Hopefully I can get it done in 90 seconds. We'll see how it goes. My name is Paul Freeman. I'd like to read the statement. I'm a local business person, father of 2 students at the school district, and an advocate in town for students and the programs supporting them. I was troubled to hear previously that the Just Communities contract was up for some review due to some anonymous criticisms and some threatened lawsuits. And as somebody who has worked with Just Communities and their team during my tenure here in town, working with social venture partners and other groups, I am concerned that something like that might derail what has been a great partnership here with the between the school district and the Just Communities staff over many, many years. You know, given the current political environment and the polarizing nature of the way things have gone, it's not any surprise that an organization dedicated to the identification and education
30
around
seconds.
implicit bias might come under attack. It's ironic because the curriculum they provide is in direct opposition to that kind of attention, and I know the Just Communities group to be very supportive of collaboration. So as somebody who's seen this be successful for the district over many, many years, I would encourage you to actually double down and put more investment into these kinds of programming to continue the positive trending. So
Thank
I hope
you.
you'll consider that. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay, and we have Reverend Mark Aspen, followed by Kim Gertz, followed by Nancy Weiss, and Simon Dixon. Reverend Aspen.
My name is Mark Asman, and for 23 years I was pastor at Trinity Episcopal Church at State Mitchell Traina, retiring in 2016. I'm here in support of Just Communities. In my 24 years in this community, as a pastor, I have been active in the Greater Santa Barbara Clergy Association, the Interfaith Initiative of Santa Barbara County, Santa Barbara CLU, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, and currently the Interfaith Sanctuary Alliance. I have never heard a whiff of concern about Just Communities. Exactly the opposite. Amongst my colleagues, Just Communities is an important and respected ally doing great work in our schools and community. Now more than ever, especially given the rising voices of fear abroad in our nation, our community needs Just Communities back at work in our schools doing the fine work.
30 seconds.
Helping everyone to find their voice and place and helping to raise up new leaders. Thank you for holding this space where our community can be heard.
Thank you. Ms. Gertz.
I'll try to be quick. My name is Kimberly Garrett. I'm an educator here in the Hope School District for the past 25 years, and my daughter has been deeply involved in Just Communities over her years at San Marcos High School. She is currently now moved on to university, and I think in part studying political science because of Just Communities. She participated in the Community Leadership Institute, Talking in Class, Can Do. She spoke on a panel with the Institute for Equity in Education, and on 2 occasions, because of the skills that they provided and giving her a voice, she went to Sacramento and spoke with legislators with a group of students from our community. I think giving students that kind of skills and that ability to have a voice, especially, is absolutely vital. End with, she actually called us and said, please come to this meeting. So I'm speaking for her as well.
30 seconds.
Okay. In a variety of ways that male-dominated problem-solving groups such as board committees and legislators, men speak 75% more than women, which is why researchers summed up having a seat at the table is not the same as having a voice. Just Community programs have given my daughter a seat at the table.
Thank you. Thank you. Nancy Weiss.
Good evening. I think this is going a little bit in and out. I'm a sophomore at Santa Barbara High School and long been watching the schools try to engage parents in particular and of course students to get the best results we can for everybody. I'm here in support of Just Communities and the projects that they run with the school. I watched as those began some years back, And it seemed to me a wonderful partnership, and I believe it is still now, to address a lot of the goals that the school board and the district office have aimed for over the years, in particular the engagement of families across a wide spectrum of diversity. And in particular, I just want to do a shout out for the language access aspects of the work that Just Communities does. As somebody who happens to be bilingual, I can't tell you how many times I've been able to personally break down barriers just because folks
30
can't
seconds.
understand. And so to have that, like right now at back to school night, and personally witnessing that, and the transformation that happens with something as simple as making sure everybody can understand each other, there's really nothing more powerful than that in working together for all of our students. So thank you, and I really urge you to vote for their contract.
Thank you. So we next have Simon Dixon, and if you can start to come down when I call your name so that we can speed this up just a little bit, followed by Guat Betedorogo, excuse me, and Nicole Dinkelacke and Suzanne Peck. So if you don't, those three, if you don't mind kind of coming down so that we can keep this moving. Simon.
Hello, board. Thanks for having us and having me here. I had a 3-minute letter that I can't do in 90 seconds, but I've sent copies of that along to you, and I hope you might take a moment to read it. My short version is doing the Just Communities program, which I went through myself, the IEE, changed my life, and I think it would change the life of anybody who does that program. It is a life-changing thing, and it's a thing for good for the community. It's not what people might imagine it to be. I just sincerely hope that the board does a difficult thing and has the courage to put this through. And should that bring out from the woodwork people who are anonymous and threatening us and trying to stop this, I say bring it on. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a tough name for me, Guat Betedorogo. I'm sorry. You mind introducing yourself so that we get it correctly?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Kerry Matsuoko and members of the Board of Education, good evening. I'm Guat Bhattacharjee. I know your mother, Laura. I'm a 50-year resident of Santa Barbara and a former parent and volunteer in Santa Barbara schools. From 1977 to 1990, I've started an after-school activity program in an elementary school, volunteered in various capacities in PTA and advisory councils, and carried out supportive and leading roles in the district's former gifted and talented programs. I'm grateful for the good education that my daughters received from the Santa Barbara School District. This is now 2018. Many changes have happened in the school district with different demographics, emphasis on content, on what is being taught and learned, and social issues, etc. Be that as it may, I'm here specifically to express my dismay at the current proposal from Just
30
Communities.
seconds. 30 seconds.
20 seconds?
30.
30 seconds. All right. I'm upset with that. And it talks about across the country experiencing the loss of real estate, etc., etc. The Supreme Court decision, Pyler versus Doe, gave equal rights to education to any child, legally or illegally here. So the cost of California to educate children illegally here and from documented, undocumented households is $8.1 billion.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that's all the time we have. Thank you. But
And I will tender this for your perusal later on.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Nicole Dinkelacke.
Hi, my name is Nicole Dinkelacke. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here today. I really appreciate the forum. I am a former parent of 2 students who graduated from Dos Pueblos High School, Goleta Valley Junior High, and Mountain View School. I'm here to tell you that getting involved with Just Communities really changed my life. I was a parent that really worked very, very hard to get my kids into the very best school district possible. And I saw as a result of that, that there were consequences that I didn't anticipate, which is that they just weren't fully integrated into the community. So what I had worked so hard to accomplish, what I learned about that is it wasn't really where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in an inclusive community where everyone mattered. And that's what I learned how to do when I got involved with Just Communities. So I did start the Equity and Excellence in Education Committee at Dos Pueblos High School, and I would be happy to speak to any of you in detail about how that came about and what changes
30
happened.
seconds.
I just want to say, too, that one of your key strategic initiatives of creating a culturally competent community schools came out of all the work that EEE did, which was completely supported by Just Communities, and wouldn't be here today. I don't think you would have had that on your strategic plan, becoming culturally competent in our schools, and it's been a valuable resource for everyone, including students and parents and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Suzanne Peck, followed by Ana Rosa Rizzo Centino, followed by Elise Ruvalazaba, and Laura Ortiz. If those three can make their way down, and Suzanne Peck.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Superintendent Matsuoka and members of the board. I have not been in any Just Communities program, so I speak as someone who's looked at it from the outside. I moved to Santa Barbara 10 years ago, and one of the first things I heard about was Just Communities. Jane Connolly, who was the Dean of the School of Education at UCSB, was working with me on a book and said, you have to take a look at what Just Communities is doing, because they're having a tremendous impact in our schools in terms of preventing bullying, in terms of diversity and inclusion. So I looked at curriculum, talked to a lot of people who've been through their programs over the years, and I've always heard positive things, only positive things. Before I moved here, having done work in diversity and inclusion for 20 years in different environments, I know there are always people who push back and who are uncomfortable with change, but from what I've seen, Just Communities is doing a really terrific job in our schools and in our
30 seconds.
community. And then the last thing I want to say is just in terms of collaboration with other important things going on in the community, Just Communities shows up, whether it's the Coalition Against Hate or Pacific Pride or any other things that are going on. They're there as a very positive force. So I support continuing the work with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ana Rosa Rizzo Centino, are you here? Again, followed by Elise, I can't read the writing, Ruva Laba. So if you could please make your way down to the microphone, followed by Laura Ortiz.
Hello, my name is Ana Rosa Rizzo Centino, and I work for Food and Water Watch, which is an environmental justice organization. And I'm here because us as people, we're part of the environment, and if we can't learn how to live together, then there's no point of having a planet. So I think it's really important that you support programs such as this that Just Communities provides, because that's the whole point of getting educated, is to live in a world where we all appreciate each other, not just tolerate each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Elise.
Hi, my name is Laura Ortiz. I am an outreach counselor at Liberty Elementary School in Santa Maria. I attended IEE this past March with my assistant principal, a 5th grade teacher, and a resource teacher. Since IEE, we have created a LEAP team at my school, which stands for Liberty Equity Action Planning Team. So our goal is to see our students as a whole, and that means seeing where they come from, their background, and understanding their entire story. Our goal also is to be more inclusive, and since IEE, our school has shifted in a more inclusive way in all areas. Our staff members are also eager and excited to attend the next IEE training. Just Communities has supported us in many ways. We have contacted each other through email. We are actually having them next week at our staff training. It's an interpretation training, which will be very useful and helpful to our families, which are 75% Latino. Come conferences,
30 seconds.
we'll be able to communicate with them effectively and be able to be open with our families and make them feel comfortable. If they have any questions, that they can come and we will support them the best we can. Thanks to Just Communities and the IEE training.
Thank you. And I had called Elise Rivilaba. I don't know if you're here, or maybe I'm saying the name so poorly that you can't understand. Anyway, maybe you're not here. You wanna help me out? The next three, and we can go back to Elise if she's here. Kathy Strasberg, please come down to the podium, followed by Judith Stevens, followed by Chuck Winant. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Sassforth. A little nervous. I'm used to talking in front of kids, not adults. I'm into my 33rd year of education in a neighboring district. I want to first mention or notice that I'm sure you can from up there that the representation of this audience is much more aligned with the demographics of the school district than has been at other meetings that I've attended, and I think that really goes to the program of Just Community, the power of the program of Just Communities. I was involved in the Parents for Inclusion, Diversity, and Access program, but I want to talk a little bit more about the testimonials I hear tonight and the testimonials I heard 2 weeks ago from the teachers. And it really struck me how many teachers said that it was the most powerful training they had ever gone through. After 33 years of teaching,
30 seconds.
I've been through a lot of trainings, and that is what stuck me with all the testimonials from last week and tonight. You know, the teachers and the support staff really are the beating heart of a school, and I think it's really important to hear those voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Judith Stevens.
I'm a resident of Santa Barbara. I went to public grammar school, public junior high school, and public high school, not in Santa Barbara, a long time ago. And I have to say that coming in here tonight, looking at these wonderful banners that are throughout the school about respect and responsibility and compassion, I think I can't imagine a school district, or at least a junior high school in this place, that's more congruent with Just Communities. And I wish my junior high school had been like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Chuck Winant, and he will be followed by Allison Four, if you want to make your way down, Allison, and Esperanza Romero, and Emmy Perez. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I don't have any kids in the system. I have a vested interest, a great interest in a broadly educated, well-educated crop of young people. And I got a deep interest in kids not being bullied. We're living now in terrible times where we're being chopped up into little pieces of others. And Americans are being demonized every day. And this program, from all I understand, from listening to all these people and all I read, fights that right at the root. So there's a saying amongst motorcycle mechanics, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. It ain't broken, it works great, please don't fix it.
Thank you. Allison Four.
Good evening. My name is Allison Four. I have two small children who go to school here in Santa Barbara. I'm also a former teacher. I taught for 11 years. And through my involvement with Just Communities, it's helped me feel more connected to my school community and more passionate than ever about making sure our schools are places where every student can succeed. So I first experienced Just Communities programs by participating in the PETA program at my son's elementary school. During that course, we discussed difficult topics like inequality in education and discrimination against students of color. And sometimes those conversations were heavy, but the facilitators of the program always made sure everyone felt safe and that nobody ever felt attacked. Rather, what happened with our group of parents was that we learned how we could work together to help improve our school community so that all of our students could have equal access to opportunity. I was personally so moved by my experience with PETA
30 seconds.
that I am now in training to become a PETA facilitator myself. So I really want to help other parents learn that they too can have a voice in their children's school and that we can all work together to improve students' access to quality education no matter what their background is. So Just Communities has been a partner for many years with the school district to make sure our students can succeed.
It's time, but thank you. So we have just one more minute to accept any new cards, and I will tell you, we have several. We have probably another 40 or so. So in the interest of time, if you feel as though your point has already been made, maybe you want to forgo your time. But again, we have 1 minute more, and then we're going to be closing off the comment card collection. Thanks. Esperanza Romero.
Sí, mi nombre es Esperanza Romero. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad.
So I will be reading off her letter in English. Parents involved as far as the dialogue and the action. Could you understand the necessity to support the school and the students and the parents? Without a doubt, we need to do something. The same year that I took on the workshop for Just Communities, I was elected to represent the parents of the school council for the year. Not only was I re-elected for the parents, but to my surprise, the same teachers were nominating me for president of the council, and I won in majority. We've had so many great efforts working together with the administration. It hasn't been easy, but it has been superior to all of our goals. We have reached superiority to all our goals. I really want to thank Just Communities for giving me the trust and the empowerment to know that I could do something for my school and for my children, even though of my race, my language, and my customs. I firmly believe in the program because I am a result of the support of my fathers that have given me the opportunity and at the moment that I received. I am mother of 3 children, and they have assisted the Santa Barbara School District for 15 years. Thank you, Esperanza Romero.
Thank you.
Si me lo permiten, creo que tengo tiempo, si me lo permiten, me gustaría entregarles un trabajo que he hecho como madre gracias al empoderamiento de comunidades justas.
I would like to, if permitted, give you work that I have worked on. Thanks to Just Communities.
Sure, thanks. Thank you. Followed by Emmy Perez.
Hello, my name is Emmy Perez. I'm a sophomore at Dos Pueblos Senior High School. I participated in talking class in the year 2015. I also spoke in panels along with Just Communities, but just this summer I was a participant of Can Do. Talking in class really opened my eyes how racial tensions have affected school environments. Can Do made me aware of issues happening in Santa Barbara County. Just Communities provided a safe environment for everyone in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next 3 speakers, Mateo Adam, Mitch Trina, and Nancy Abrams.
Hello, my name is Mateo Adame, and I'm a sophomore at Dos Pueblos Senior High School. I participated in the 2015 talking class, which was the first one they actually did in junior high at Goleta Valley. And I went to panels along with Just Communities and talked to other parents about the impact that talking class had on me. And talking class really just gave me a voice in the school district. I got to talk to the superintendent at that time. I'm not sure if that was you, I forgot. And it also made me want other kids to have that chance, to get that voice that I had. And now it really just opened my eyes at a young age, like in 7th grade, pretty young, to realize everything that was happening around me. And it just really made my 2 years at Goleta Valley a really big deal to me since
30 seconds.
Oh, thank you. Since it really just opened my eyes. Thank you.
So we are now closed for additional speakers. Mr. Torina.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Matsuoka, and cabinet members. I was a participant in one of the first Just Communities trainings they had back in 2002. It was called NCCJ then. In the last 15 years, I have never heard anyone come out of any trainings, come out of any work with Just Communities, and say, wow, that was really anti-white, anti-Christian program. Didn't happen, doesn't happen, because that's not what it is. You'll hear more about Just Communities. What I want to put out there is to you as a board and as a school district. Just Communities gives students, as you just heard, the opportunity to talk truth to power. Just Communities gives parents and other community members who don't have a say and don't have a voice to speak their truth. And it also gives teachers an opportunity by which to have a lens
30 seconds.
Through which they can see not only their own implicit bias, but see how that affects young people daily. Because if students and people in the school district are not willing to be affected by students as students are affected by them, then we've missed something. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Abrams. Again, followed by Noel McGivern, followed by Eric Early.
Good evening, Board Superintendent. I'm a parent of a student in the Santa Barbara School District and got involved with Just Communities through the parent group, PETA. And it was an incredibly powerful and moving experience where people got to really hear each other, learn about each other's histories and stories, and recognize that we had a really common goal, and that was the success of our children. And I'm also an educator, and I see the inequity and the achievement gap that we all have to overcome. And this is a start. This was a chance for us to really listen to each other and to start building those bridges towards integration. And Just Communities is a really powerful and important program, and I do hope we continue with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, it's Noel McGivern. Noel McGivern? Thank you. Wait 1 second, I don't think the mic's on. There you go.
Hi, I'm Noel McGivern. I was born here on Chumash land in 1961 in St. Francis Hospital. I went to Adams, Peabody, La Cumbre, and San Marcos, and UCSB. And I'm a French teacher as well as a substitute teacher. And I worked for John Kane, so I'm thrilled. But what I want to say is, in my walk of life as a guardian of our youth and our young people, I have witnessed the need for Just Communities. And I'm thrilled that I want to heal that place in myself that might not already be completely healed. I love my intertribal life. I'm just thrilled to be here working with students, and I want to even get better at it. I want to be more human. There's only one race. It's the human race. And I've seen A Tale of Two Cities since I moved back from San Francisco, and
30
I'm
seconds.
just so grateful for the opportunity to take that class. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Early, followed by Lorraine Woodwork, followed by Tanya Israel. Thank you.
We are only one race, I agree with the last speaker, and that's why I'm here. I'm an attorney who represents a group of concerned citizens who have attended Just Communities workshops. Fair Communities Education was formed to help ensure that this district provide every student, regardless of race, ethnicity, culture, and sexual orientation, the opportunity to achieve their highest ability and potential. We support implicit bias training. JCC crosses far over the line in violation of the law. We've asked, and we ask again, the district should put JCC's materials out there on the website. Be transparent. Let all the people of Santa Barbara see what you are supporting. Just Communities separates communities and causes conflict. Quote, and if you have a problem with my quotes, and these are direct quotes, put the materials out there for everybody to see. Racism, a system of oppression based on
30
race
seconds.
that privileges white people and targets people of color. Just Communities results have not been properly vetted. The board must submit the program for competitive bidding as required by law. We must see a full conflict disclosure. Implicit bias training can be done by existing teachers in the district, and I've spoken to them. I've spoken to teachers afraid to speak for their jobs, who are in classes separated by race, who have told me the damage being done. If this contract is entered, it will be void as a matter of law the minute it is entered. Thank you.
Actually, it's, well, Tanya, Dr. Israel, you can go, and then followed by Lorraine Woodwork.
My name is Tanya Israel. Over the past 15 years, I've engaged with Just Communities as a collaborator, contractor, volunteer, and program participant, and I express my strongest support for their work. I'm a professor and chair of UCSB's Department of Counseling, Clinical, and School Psychology. I hold a master's degree in education and a doctoral degree in counseling psychology, and I'm a fellow of the Society for the Teaching of Psychology. Quite honestly, Just Communities has the very best facilitators for diversity training that I have ever encountered. Having completed their facilitator training, I can attest that they base their approach in factual information, accessible conceptual models, and a deep understanding of psychological responses to privilege and oppression. I've contracted and collaborated with them on several projects. Most significantly, I worked with Just Communities to develop and deliver training on LGBTQ issues for the Santa Barbara Police Department. Because I conducted research on this training, I can speak to the effectiveness and skillful execution of the training.
30 seconds.
When the chief of police mandated a 5-hour training on LGBTQ issues for all sworn officers in the Santa Barbara Police Department, Just Communities took on primary responsibility for the design and facilitation of the training in collaboration with the Police Department, Pacific Pride Foundation, and my research team at UCSB. My team gathered data which demonstrated that the training was effective and that it increased confidence in being able to implement LGBTQ affirming tactics. Furthermore, law enforcement demonstrated some resistance to the training. Thank you, but also receptiveness. Thank you.
Okay. So we have Lorraine Woodwork, to be followed by Lisa Slavid and Sherry, I think it says Pierce, not Peril maybe? Lorraine.
Thank you. Appointed trustees of the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Vote no on the contract award of $294,000 to Just Community, Agenda G1. Just Communities is not concerned about how to best reduce the achievement gap or to achieve educational equity, stability, and safety in Santa Barbara. It's not transparent or lawful. It's wrong. When did the public bid opening process occur? Where was the RFP publicly noticed? SBUSD's relationship with Just Communities fails to provide equity of access and opportunity to students, faculty, and parents by other segments of our community capable and determined to promote equity in education. This exclusive, incestuous, and non-transparent relationship with the web of social justice warriors, as represented by Just Communities, puts our unique community stability and safety at risk. It wrongly trains students to
30
be
seconds.
angry victims of oppression. The role of taxpayer-funded public education is to provide the highest quality instruction to prepare every student with the required skill sets and academic knowledge for full civic participation to strengthen and improve America's contribution to the world community. It is not to create and fuel identity victims by Just Communities and its web within Santa Barbara County.
Thank you. Lisa Slavid. Great. Again, followed by, I think it says Sherry, I can't read the last name, starting with an R, Sherry Rowe, maybe? To be followed by Marla A. Lisa.
Hi, folks. Thanks for the chance to talk tonight. Lisa Slavitt. I've lived in Santa Barbara for 24 years. I work at UC Santa Barbara, and I have been a diversity educator for over 28 years. I've been one of the instructors for IEE with Just Communities, and I'm a former board member, but I haven't been for the last 10 years. I think the points I'd like to bring up that are fresh points are this, which is I know Just Communities to be very inclusive. I know them to be open, and I know them to be research-based. And I think a thing I would like to just share, and I'm moved to share right now, is I'm not working for them in any shape or form, but I do know that they'd appreciate dialogue. And so I think that this is the work they do. If there are people feeling left out, they would be open to dialoguing around this. And I would encourage folks to do that as opposed to a lawsuit. And I would encourage your support of their program. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry.
Hi, sorry for the bad handwriting. My name is Sheridan Rosenberg. I'm a parent. My child goes to Santa Barbara High School, loves it. I spoke at the last meeting, and what I asked was just if perhaps you could put the curriculum up on the district website. And I keep coming back and looking, and I haven't seen it. Can you tell me when it's going to appear on the website? Because the gentleman who spoke earlier talked about transparency and reviewing curriculum, and I haven't seen anything. So it's just a question. Is that a no? I don't know. Okay, thanks.
Marla A., followed by Rob Schiff, followed by Gail Teton Landis. Marla A., is she gone? Okay, then it's Rob Schiff.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Schiff. I'm an AVID elective teacher at Dos Pueblos High School, as well as the district coordinator for our AVID program. I've had the opportunity and honor to work with Just Communities in various capacities over the last 4 years. Much like our own AVID program, Just Communities is an organization seeking to level the playing field when it comes to creating opportunities for success and advancement for historically underserved members of our community. I know some people are concerned that Just Communities' efforts on the behalf of inclusion for some necessarily means they're working for the exclusion of others. I know from working with the organization personally that this view is a fallacy. I am myself a privileged white male. Just Communities is not working against anyone, rather they are working for everyone. There's a significant amount of data showing the strides our district has made since partnering with their organization. As importantly, I believe their work has not only been successful, but also enlightening and inspirational. I grew up as a student in our school district. I've worked in our school district in some capacity as a teacher, coach, coordinator, and in various other roles since my freshman year in college. Hard to believe. Before that, my mother and father worked for our district for over 45 years combined. I think it's fair to say I have a long personal history with the Santa Barbara Unified School District. During all that time, I believe one of the best decisions we've made is to choose to partner with Just Communities. To choose to sever that relationship would be one of the worst. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Gail Teton Landis. I think she might have left. Hillary Blackerby, followed by Vincent Dodaro, followed by Jean Alexander.
Good evening. Glad to be with you tonight and want to just share my experience as a former board member of Just Communities and someone who's been involved in some of their programming and have done programming with youth through their Community Leadership Institute. It's certain, it's cliche at this point because so many people have said it, but it was life-changing for me. And I got to see the lives of so many youth changed. And I wish that happened to me as an adult. I wish it had happened to me when I was going through public school. And so I'm glad that it gets to happen to the students of Santa Barbara Unified to really open their eyes and learn so much about themselves and their community. And I hope that if I ever have a kid, they'll definitely go to public school in Santa Barbara, and hope that this program will still be in place so that they can help make the community better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vincent Dodaro. I am a graduate of Dos Pueblos High School, class of 2012, and a recent Just Communities board appointee. When I was a junior in high school in 2011, I attended the Just Communities Community Leadership Institute. I am a gay man and a person of color, and that week taught me more about my identities and the world around me than anything I had experienced up to that point. I left with a fresh perspective, empowered to stand up for the inequities I recognized, and the drive to make a difference on my campus. I was unified with peers I had never interacted with and felt I had the tools I needed to make a change. Soon after, I took on roles as Dos Pueblos Commissioner of Social Awareness and as the student chair for the Committee for Equity and Excellence in Education. I felt equipped to facilitate uncomfortable discussions of privilege and dove deeper into addressing systemic inequalities present on my campus. Just Communities showed me that I have the power to own my experiences and the voice to make a change. The work that Just Communities does is not always comfortable, but that's what makes it so profound. We must continue to be vulnerable, continue to address our privilege, and continue to work together every day if we wish to continue creating the school district that every student deserves. Thank you, Just Communities, and thank you all for the work that you do for our students.
Thank you. Jean Alexander, to be followed by Jason Tarman and Christy Tarman.
Hi, my name is Jean Alexander. I've been an attorney here in Santa Barbara for 37 years, and I recently joined the board of Just Communities because I so strongly believe in their work. It seems like our entire country is coming apart at the seams right now, and the divisions caused by racism, sexism, and the like are wedges that polarize us. Just Communities is a breath of fresh air. Their work brings understanding and fosters caring for each other. I've heard from so many people, as we are hearing here tonight, that this work has had a profound impact on their lives and their schools. Through my own anti-bias training, including with Just Communities, I've come to see that racism hurts all people, including white people. It has affected me by keeping me apart from others and by not feeling so good about myself as a white person, which actually does no one any good, I've learned, and so I'm working on dropping that. None of us created racism, but we all carry the wounds. The work of Just Communities is to heal those wounds by bringing us together. What could be more important? At this fragile, polarized time in history, I ask you to keep this work of bringing people together alive in our schools by approving Just Communities' contract. Our young people deserve no less. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tarman.
My name is Jason Tarman. I've lived here my whole life. I raised my children in the Santa Barbara schools, and I work as a therapist with youth in the community. I recently had the opportunity to partner with Just Communities with the County of Santa Barbara in the development and training of for our clinicians in implicit bias. And I am incredibly grateful for that opportunity and the courage that our department and our county has had to look at this issue. It's not comfortable to look at these things. It's not a comfortable conversation. It does take courage. But these youth that we're fighting for, these are the ones that are affected by it when youth are not being treated equitably in school or in our system, in the mental health system, getting diagnosed with diagnoses that don't fit where they are because of their race.
30 seconds.
I'm grateful for Just Communities. We've watched them work throughout with our children in the community, and I'm grateful for them.
Thank you. Christy Tarman. Followed by Hoseby Galindo, if you can make your way down, please, and Maria Rivadeneria.
Thank you for your time. My name is Christy Tarman. I work as an instructional assistant with 5th through 8th graders. I've worked for over 15 years in the public school system in Santa Barbara County, and my kids both graduated from this system. I'm speaking in defense of Just Communities because I'm convinced that school districts who partner with them will be successful in reducing the achievement gap. I attended their Institute for Equity in Education in 2012. It educated and equipped me with knowledge and tools that I use on almost a daily basis, both in my professional and my personal life. And it has enabled me to build trust and create collaborative partnerships across areas of difference, including language, culture, socioeconomics, religion. Learning to listen to and understand and advocate for others is, I feel, in dialogue, is the primary thing that they teach. And it increases engagement
30 seconds.
of families in the educational process and leads to stronger schools with more successful students. I am white and I am from a Christian tradition, and I refute the claim strongly that's being made by the opponents. Just Communities is not bringing politically motivated anti-white and anti-Christian curriculum. They are caring for and empowering marginalized individuals, creating dialogue that's the hallmark of a true, healthy, democratic society. So I encourage you to sign this MOU confidently.
Thank you. Okay, Hospi Galindo, followed again by Maria Rivendaria.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jose Galindo. I have children in the district. I'm also a teacher here, and I'm not afraid to stand up for what's right. I'm here in support of Just Communities, particularly the Nepan Tiawi cultural curriculum that they provide, specifically because my administrator and myself, we want to bring STEM and engineering back into our school. And Just Communities, through the program that I just mentioned, gives us that opportunity. And what I told my administrator that I love about Just Communities and the program that they were offering is that it's inclusive. It brings everybody together. There's a lot of entities out there that are looking for people that maybe they're first generation going to a college, or people maybe that are already geared and wanting to go to a STEM program, but Just Communities has given us a platform where we can invite everybody to come be a part of it. And how are we gonna get everybody to come and be a part of this? We came up with a project, which was gonna be a solar-powered cell phone charger, considering that
30
this
seconds.
district has gone 1-to-1, maybe it should be an iPad charger. But nevertheless, that's how we were gonna get everybody to want to come to this program, everybody. Also, we were gonna take it into the classroom. If you don't know about Mesoamerica, I mean, their foundation is in astronomy. We use them today in NASA. So we were gonna really use that cross-curricular opportunity to teach a lot of things about math, science, history, and I hope that you guys support that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Maria, do you mind saying your last name so that we get it correctly?
My name is Marla Arciniega. I got here a little late, but my girl, Simone Rivandeniera, is giving me her time. And my name is Marla Arciniega. I was a little earlier on the list.
Okay, proceed.
Hi, so I assume, I just got here, but I assume we've already covered the courage it takes to have these conversations, the importance of youth finding these conversations and finding their stories at school. But something that I hope has also been mentioned is the skill that you learn through Just Communities to listen to one another in a group, which is really powerful for youth to be interrupted through a school system that is modeled under the Letherian, I can't say his last name, model, right? The pyramid, the expert depositing into empty containers. Just Communities demolishes that for students, for young minds, to be able to acknowledge individual experiences and the knowledge and gifts that those bring, and for youth to have those connections in school it adds on to the courage and the right to have these conversations and to know their power and their voice. So I work with Just Communities as their youth organizer for a year, proudly, and I will continue to work with them wherever they go.
Thank you. So now next we have Sid Abad, followed by excuse me, Matthew Lowe. And next up after that, after Matthew, will be Eloy Zarate.
Hi, my name is Sid Abad. I go by he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a recent grad of Dos Pueblos High School. I've been a facilitator and a participant in about 5 programs of Just Communities and have spoken on various panels by them. There's a quote that I live by as a student activist, and it goes, "People hate what they don't understand." That's why I, a transgender man of color, have been tormented and harassed countless times throughout high school, both by students and even teachers. Throughout the program, Talking in Class, Just Communities educates the student body and staff through student-run presentations full of rich information, experiences, and ideas on how to solve those social inequities. Without Just Communities, students like me will not have easy access to voice their concerns and advocate for themselves, and our students will learn their newly gained, our students will lose their newly gained social mindfulness, which means more people like me will face more hate. My community has a suicide attempt rate of almost 50%, the transgender community.
30 seconds.
Mainly due to the hate from peers and family. For my friends and I, it's life or death when it comes to educating people. People hate what they don't understand, and getting rid of the students' only curriculum on social issues will only proliferate the existing ignorant and hate fueled by harassment and bullying of people of targeted identities. For those in the crowd who are in opposition of Just Communities, I ask you to approach me after this meeting and tell me your plan on what you're going to do to replace it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Lowe. Let's all be respectful of time here too. Matthew Lowe.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Lowe. I'm from Restorative Community Network. We're a part of implementing restorative practices within Santa Barbara Unified School District and Lompoc Unified School District. And a point that I would like to make is, as somebody that is in support of Just Communities and has partnered with Just Communities in many of their programs and fully support all of the programs that have been supported by the students and parents alike tonight, I think a point is that there are definitely two sides here, and they need to be healed because we are truly one community. And if we divide our communities, then it'll just create separation. We need to be one community coming together and see each party, each group as a part of our community, so we can have whole schools and schools that are truly inclusive and one, and see each person as they truly are, as the individual that was just up here mentioned. That was just a powerful representation. And I think as we move forward in this process, we're seeing things that we didn't see before.
30 seconds.
And it is helpful, and we know places that we can now go and things that can be healed. And as somebody that is white and comes from a Christian tradition, I'm in full support of this work of Just Communities, and I believe we need to be a healing community, as the Santa Barbara Unified School District has committed themselves to. Thank you.
Thank you. Eloy Zarate, followed by Albert Oten, followed by Kim Lawler. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aloy. I'm a junior at Dos Pueblos. This March, I attended a meeting called Change Agent Network for Dismantling Oppression, also known as CAN DO. This youth-led space is such a breath of fresh air from other learning environments I've been in. So I've continued to attend these meetings because of the leadership skills I gain and the community of wonderful, passionate individuals I get to work with. In addition to this, I've also participated in Just Communities Talking in Class program, which has helped me connect with other students who have similar identities. This program, as said before, also includes curriculum that better educates me on legislation and other important things affecting people in my community. Overall, Just Communities has improved my experience as a student in Santa Barbara, and I've also noticed that how IEE has impacted my teachers and how they approach certain subjects. I hope you continue to support everything Just Communities is doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Albert Oten. Ready to go? Okay. Kim Lawler, followed by Grace Wallace, followed by Doug Fisher.
Hi, I'm Kim Lawler. Thanks for this opportunity tonight. I am a parent of 3 students, 2 at Dos Pueblos and 1 at La Patera Elementary. I went through the PETA program in April of 2015. I found this program to be extremely beneficial. We were able to find commonality, build community, increase awareness, dispel stereotypes, increase communication, and build action plans specific to our school's needs. I support Just Communities in every way. I'm pretty shocked to hear some of these allegations and charges. There was nothing toxic about my experience. The proof is in the pudding. That's a saying that I grew up with. I think you can see they've had a lot of good, a lot of benefit, a lot of positivity. I think that it's critical that the board continue to utilize this agency in keeping with your mission statement, specifically bullet point number 5, promote a culture of mutual trust and respect between students, parents, staff, and community members, and bullet point number 6, value student and staff
30 seconds.
diversity in our schools and classrooms, and promote equal access across all education programs and activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace Wallace, again followed by Doug Fisher, followed by Annette Keynes.
Dear board members, my name is Grace Wallace. Thank you for the time to speak on this agenda, which will affect our children, the next generation, in a negative, inexcusable way. Approximately 30% of special education funds are being diverted away from providing education assistance for students with disability. This is a denial of equal access to education and discrimination against the disabled. Non-English speaking students are being placed into special education. Not only does this diminish the needed funds to help students with disability, it also assumes that non-speaking students are disabled. This is racial discrimination. This is a misappropriation of funds. Ironically, Just Community is anything but just. Not only is it unfair to the disabled, it is an injustice against all students. Just Community inflammatory agenda of division and hatred at the
30
expense
seconds.
of our children. It will further separate us and continue to cause even more division. Children do not see color or the race of our skin color or ethnicity. Children must be taught racism. Just Community is anything but just. Unity is the answer. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Doug Fisher.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I served on the PTA at Monroe School a couple of years ago and had the opportunity to participate in PETA, the inclusion program run by Just Communities. Spent a semester getting to know some of my other fellow parents at the school. It was an incredibly powerful experience. I think it's been interesting to listen to some of the opponents of Just Communities talk about the importance of the implicit bias training that they do among some other programs. Research certainly supports that this is a great way to help close the achievement gap, and it's really important to building engagement with students and improving the quality of our schools, the outcome. In my research career, I've worked with many professional facilitators and mediators. I've never come across a group so consistently professional as those who work for Just Communities. They're head and shoulders above other facilitators and mediators I've worked with.
30 seconds.
So I guess with the opponents recognizing the value of the work that they're doing, but disputing their skill or the way that they're implementing it, I would encourage you to recognize that value, and I would argue that they're among the most skilled people doing that work. If there is another group out there that has anything like their skill available, I would encourage you to talk to that group, but I haven't seen anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Annette Keynes, followed by David Kloos, followed by Gloria Buzek, and we are down to the last 6 or 7. Maybe she's left. Okay, David Kloos. Nope. Are you Annette? I'm sorry? Oh, Gloria, great. Gloria Buzek, thank you.
Good evening. I'm another parent who's had my children go through the whole Santa Barbara school system. I was a PTA president on that stage at La Cumbre here for 2 years. I have a good background in education as well, from good schools, have been a teacher and a businesswoman. Some things that I have heard about this program have given me pause. One thing is that I'm hearing all sorts of people who are groups talking about how it affects their group. When it seems to me that the purpose of our school is that we see ourselves as Americans and as citizens and people in Santa Barbara who all bring our skills together here and that we have a chance to grow. I'm glad that people are finding that in a program, but I have some things that disturb me about it. One thing is that the schools
30 seconds.
should be ideally apolitical. You run as non-political people, though we know that's not true. But I'm getting a very distinct feeling here that this is a very political organization, and I'm just going to read one line that was given to me and that disturbs me greatly. It says that wealthy people and businesses, if this is in your curriculum, shape schools to contain and control poor people and turn them into useful workers and consumers. That's why rich people support public schools with their tax dollars, because they benefit. I always learned that the reason we had public schools was because we wanted to transmit our values, our Constitution, our government, appreciation to our kids, and to teach us so that the languages and the skills we needed to
Thank you, ma'am.
prosper in the future.
Thank you.
And I hope we do that. I'm not
you.
sure about this program.
Okay, followed by John Busek and Simone, I think it's Simone Beauchamp. John Busek? Nope. Okay. So Simone, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name. Ruskamp, perhaps? Okay, she had to leave. Cricket Wood. Oh, you're John. Okay, great. Come on down, sir.
Gloria is my better half. So, but she said it pretty well. I'd like to point out a few things, basic things. Parents have the primary role of educating children, their children, not the state, not the city, not the county. If you are going to impose a program that's going to shape what goes into our children's heads, what they, through their senses, what they see, what they hear, what they smell, what they taste, what they touch, if you control that, you have controlled them. Very important. If you look at on TV and you see emotion driving the intellect of young kids, destroying for the sake of what they think is a just society, that's wrong. And I think you might want to take a look at the cardinal principles of education, if you still have those, because those should inform what you do. And that's just my point. Thank you.
Thank you. So our last two speakers, if they're here still, are Cricket Wood and Teresa Solomon.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Cricket Wood. I have 3 students in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. I've been involved in Santa Barbara Unified School District as a parent for the past 11 years. I've served 8 of those years on the PTA board at Monroe Elementary School. Our school has a diverse population representative of our community, and when I first joined the board, we wanted to reach out and include our complete community in the leadership at our school, and we're wondering why that wasn't happening before us. Many teachers and administrators that had worked at that school before had sort of thrown their hands up, weren't sure about how to do that. We reached out to Just Communities in 2009. We had a few parents of English second language students who were interested in getting involved. Just Communities gave us the support that we needed to become a more inclusive community, and we were able to
30 seconds.
To recruit our first Spanish-speaking first language parent on our PTA board. We started numerous school activities that were involving more of the complete community. They completely supported us in that process, and as people turned over, they've come back and done other trainings to continue to support that process in building leadership of our entire community at Monroe. Thank you. I encourage you to continue your relationship with them.
Thank you. Teresa Solomon, our final speaker.
Excuse me. I live in Santa Barbara, and I have a daughter in the school district. I've lived everywhere, and I've seen real racism, and that's scary. And I stand fiercely against racism and bigotry, and I'm concerned that the material that was not disclosed to the parents, and I'm concerned that it's not an elective. I am against teaching my child and anyone else that they are victims or targets. Teaching oppression and singling out as a general group of people leads to racism. You all need to know that because it's going to be on your hands. And I hope that none of the school board and none of the teachers are racist. I hope and I pray to God that none of you are. And I hope that you're not teaching racism or bigotry. And if I'm concerned that there's not going to be an answer to this that is a good and right answer, then I'm going to get on that lawsuit and I'm going to tell everybody I can to get on board. But I come here in love, and I hope you guys listen to what they have to say and what I have to say, because I want the right thing for all the kids, not just my daughter.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone for all of the comments.
That concludes our speaker. Thank you all for your participation and your voices. Ms. Carey, you want to come and share a few comments? And then we will turn it over to the board for discussion.
Good evening again, Board. I'll state the obvious by saying that there's been considerable attention given to this proposed contract and item G1 in recent weeks and here tonight. And while the focus has been on the proposed partnership, the specifics of the current iteration of the proposed partnership between Santa Barbara Unified School District and an organization titled Just Communities, it does seem that we need to just acknowledge that it's also been a lot about small c community, certainly here tonight. I think it's important to state as the district representative bringing this contract forward for the public record that, as you've heard directly from district staff and Just Communities prior to the meeting and through testimonials leading up to tonight's meeting and tonight, the philosophy, programming, and approaches associated with Just Communities as an organization do not disparage any particular group or individual, and that to the contrary, the aim is to engender respect for all individuals and all groups so that we can come to more clearly understand how to make things better together. The work of developing culturally proficient school communities, and to an even greater extent, ensuring equity, is neither easy nor simple. But as abundant evidence has demonstrated to date, Just Communities has been a valued and impactful partner of our district over many years to this end. And as a public school system, it is among our chief responsibilities to engage in and execute the difficult and complex world of cultivating culturally proficient and equitable school communities. It's why we name it explicitly as a chief priority of our district and in our strategic plans. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the substance of the matter before you, and that is the agreement between the district and Just Communities has been amended per our own internal processes and in accordance with the board's recommendations and input following the report that was made to the board at the meeting on September 11th. Specifically, it's been converted from 3 separate memorandums of understanding into one comprehensive contract for services. An evaluation component has been incorporated, and minor adjustments have been made to Appendix A, which details the programming, most notably the component that addresses the proposed services to support the culturally relevant curriculum development process. So again, as we seek to prepare students for a world that is yet to be created, we are seeking the board's approval of this contract with Just Communities to affirm the commitment of our unified district and hopefully increasingly a unified community in cultivating a future community that is more inclusive and equitable than the one we know today. And I'm available for any questions or comments you might have at this time.
Board members, any comments? Ms. Parker?
And first I want to thank all the members of the public. We got so many emails around this. And I want to apologize because I'm probably not the only one who's still catching up on responding to those emails. But please know that they have all been read, and that it was important to hear from everybody on both sides in this. I know it takes courage to come up to a podium and talk. And so thank you for those members of the public who spoke on both sides of this issue. It has been a mission of the Santa Barbara School Board, at least since the time I started 12 years ago, to close the achievement gap, to build equity and access in all of our school programs, and to build inclusive schools. And Just Communities has been a huge part of that progress over the past 12 years, almost 12 years that I've been on the board together with them. And it's interesting to see it's unusual for us to have this quantity of people across very different backgrounds, parents, teachers, students, to come speak on something that's essentially a program that's outside the school district. But it does speak to the fact that we have made this a variety of programs that are accessible to many different bodies in the community. And so I appreciate everybody that's out here to speak both for and against this issue. It does feel particularly appropriate to me to be talking about this tonight here at La Cumbre Junior High, because I attended IEE in the summer of 2014 with the cohort from La Cumbre led by Joanne Keynes. And it was very hard, and it was life-changing, and it was also very positive and very unifying. It made me a much better school board member, and I think that previous school board members who have been through this process would say the same thing. I want to speak at this point particularly to the contract. So I want to thank staff, because we asked you to step up really fast and work hard on something that I know that was hard to put together quickly. I do think that the contract is much improved. And I don't think I have a question for you, Ms. Carey, but I think I do for our district lawyer, Joe Scholder. If he could come and briefly speak on the issue, the question of the legality of the contract, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Certainly. We've received several letters, very long letters, that have laid out a substantial number of claims claiming the contract is not legal. And we've heard some of them again. The fact of the matter is this: in both of the letters that we got, there's not one case do they cite which says that this program violates the law. So you've heard a number of statements about how the program discriminates, and they have cited us no cases at all in which a court has found that a school board that has adopted a curriculum has violated the law. In fact, the cases are to the contrary, because courts know that, just like you've seen tonight, people are going to have debates, sometimes fierce debates, about the content of what it is that students are taught. It's interesting, of course, in this case, the vast majority of the work is not even done with students. It's done to train staff. Nonetheless, courts have looked at this, and what courts have said repeatedly in cases that we have shared with the other side, that courts will defer to the expertise of school boards with respect to these decisions. And that includes cases where there is portions of the curriculum that certain parents don't like, that they think is bad or racist, because what the courts themselves say is that this is up to the expertise of the school board members, and it's not up to the courts. That has been the main point, and I think we were asked to look at this after the meeting that you had on September 11. We have looked at this thoroughly, and we are very, very, we're very confident that that if you, I guess if you adopt this contract, that it will not be overturned with respect to violations of discrimination laws. Now, there's one more point that has been made here, and that is that this contract had to go to public bidding. The fact of the matter is that there is a section of the government code 53060, which has an exception to it. And essentially what that exception is for specialized services. And so, for example, when you hire a lawyer like me, you don't have to bid those contracts out. And the reason is because the provision of lawyering services is specialized. Similarly, in this case, we have a situation where there are not people at the school district who do this kind of work. And therefore, we have concluded, based upon that this contract does not have to be bid. Those were the 2 points that we heard, and they are the main points that we have read about. And so if you have any further questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them.
Ms. Capps.
Thank you. I just want to start out with kind of a clarifying question, so I have my numbers correct, either for you, Ms. Carey, or for Mr. Tay. Our local control accountability plan, I believe, is around 11.7 million. Is that correct? Great.
Yes.
That's a part of an overall budget of 167 million, and this contract is, was it 294? And I asked this question off the top to clarify one of many false messages that are coming out from the opponents of Just Communities that represent that this program depletes nearly, this is a quote, nearly all of the LCAP funding. By my calculation, roughly $300,000 is about 2% of the local control accountability plan. And I say that in part to clarify, not at all to minimize this program, because clearly it's extremely important, but to put it in some perspective, and also to state for the public, because again, we don't often get this many people at our meetings, that this is just one piece of a huge comprehensive plan to improve student outcomes, especially for, and trying to improve the achievement gap. Just one piece. And we're having this discussion not because of this threat of legal action, but because the school board was doing its job by providing oversight on a routine MOU that had been renewed in the past. My colleague Wendy Sims-Moten, a few meetings ago, pulled it off the consent agenda, an action I was just about to do myself, because I believed that this sensitive topic deserves some transparency, and I'm glad we're having that. The following meeting, the board had a chance to discuss it, and we raised flags. I raised flags about a lack of scope, mentioned evaluation, length of time, et cetera, all about the governance of it. These were all about rules of engagement, but not about the merits of implicit bias training. I've reviewed the contract. I appreciate the staff work. All of my concerns about the then MOU, now contract, have been put aside, and I want to echo Ms. Parker and thank the district staff for rectifying the situation and providing a sound, transparent, and clear contractual agreement. I'm especially pleased that there will be an evaluation of the program this year. I was also happy to learn that there was a very professional evaluation done 5 years ago in 2013 by an outside professionals, one of whom I know by reputation, Rubai Estes, a well-known data analysis who is now at the Santa Barbara Foundation. I reviewed the 33-some pages of this evaluation as I was getting flooded with these wonderful emails from the public. And so the analytic findings, even though they were 5 years ago, very much underscored the anecdotal experiences of so many people in this community. I just want to go over, and they speak to the achievement gap gains that have been made since Just Communities has been in place. But I want to speak to, just briefly, their 6 main findings, because again, they underscore all that we've heard tonight and what we've heard over the last few weeks. The first is introspection. Just Communities offers an opportunity for introspection that allows educators to analyze and change their attitudes and practice. This came across so many times, most poignantly, I believe, last meeting we had, by a teacher of color who spoke to us and confessed that until she had done this program, she realized she had not been pushing her students of color hard enough. Secondly, the evaluators spoke to the proof that this Just Communities provides a sense of urgency on closing the achievement gap. I can speak to experience on this, having been a student here in the public schools in the 1980s, where the achievement gap was there then. My classes were completely segregated, the honors and AP classes that I was in. We have to have a sense of urgency, otherwise we just keep talking about this problem. And so if Just Communities, as the evaluators noted, is doing a lot to instigate that sense of urgency, I say all for it. Thirdly, a critical mass. Clearly, the evaluators found that Just Communities developed a critical mass of leaders working for change in behavior and policy that has only been affirmed by the widespread outpouring of community support. Fourth, a common language, and this is really important right now in this time in our history. They write that Just Communities provides a common language and framework for talking about the issues facing Latino student achievement, about racism in productive ways. We have heard from so many who stand by how constructive and positive the curriculum is, not derisive, not blaming, not shaming. Again, especially in this time of extreme polarization, these kind of conversations that have been happening on a staff level, on a teacher level, on a student level, on a parent level are so vitally important. Fifth is infrastructure change. It allows those who went through the process to be change agents. According to a mom who wrote in, she said, "I learned we can listen, sympathize, and speak up when we see injustice. We can be stewards of our own community." And lastly, that it's based on evidence-based practices, applied research, and case studies. This was underscored today in her comments, but also by an email we received from Dr. Tanya Israel, chair of the UCSB's Department of Counseling, Clinical, and School Psychology. She writes that Just Communities has the very best facilitators for diversity training that she's ever encountered. They base their approach in factual information, accessible conceptual models, and deep understanding of psychological responses to privilege and oppression. So I am so thankful that the board did its job by asking the staff to step back so that we can be more transparent with the community and have this wonderful dialogue about a contract that is now more comprehensive and clear. I believe so much in implicit bias training, and that we have an obligation to our students to provide them with the tools to combat bias and develop critical analysis of various social conditions that are inherent in our culture. It makes me proud of our community that this program is in place, that this conversation is happening here tonight, and I look forward to moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
I think my colleague, Ms. Capps, said it beautifully. Thank you for bringing up those points from the research. One point I do want to touch on, Ms. Carey, if you wouldn't mind answering. There's been some conversation tonight about this being forced on folks, on whether they're staff, students, parents. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I can refute that unequivocally. Typically what happens is, much like what you have experienced if you're in attendance tonight, the compelling nature of participants' testimonials in conjunction with having participated in one of the Just Communities programs has the effect of inviting and incentivizing others to do so. And that happens at all levels. It happens among administrators, it happens among teaching faculty, and it happens among students. So that's the main way that critical mass, to cite something that Ms. Capps mentioned earlier, has been building over the years, is that as people participate in programming, it starts to diffuse, and the really powerful part of that is that the common constructs and vocabulary really do start to achieve critical mass.
And as we have heard tonight, a lot of the analytical information and the contractual information, I also do want to, first before I go on, is also thank the staff for turning this around so quickly, to make it from an MOU to a contract, because I know that's not easy work, and to get asked to do it on, drop of a dime is can be kind of hard and frustrating. So thanks to the staff. I do want to talk just briefly about, just anecdotally, my experience with Just Communities as a board member. Seeing the students talking in class, seeing the programs, even being a host, I guess it was the anfitrión is the Spanish word for Just Communities about a year or more before I joined the board. Again, just anecdotally, what I've seen through these programs is what I want to see through all of our programs, whether it's Just Communities facilitating or not, is that parents and students feel empowered, that our teachers feel empowered, that they feel that they have a voice. My philosophy is that no one can take away your power, no one can give you power, only you can give it away. And so being able to teach our students to be able to gain that power back, to realize that power so they can advocate for themselves, so their parents can advocate for themselves. A lot of research that I've done in grad school and outside of grad school says that parent engagement is one of the biggest determining factors for success for students. And from what I've seen, and again, what I want for our district is to continue those conversations. It's not a one-sided deal. It's not the students doing it by themselves. It's not the parents doing it by themselves. It's not our staff and faculty do it by themselves, but it's in a collaboration. So if for some reason in the future Just Communities isn't part of our curriculum, or not our curriculum, but isn't partner with us, I would hope that we would continue creating opportunities where we look at the student and educational opportunities as a whole, looking at the different ways, because I know from just, again, growing up in this community, being a product of SBUSD, as being an educator, being part of education for the last 10 years, a student does not turn off the rest of the world when they walk onto our campus. A teacher, a parent doesn't turn off the world, outside world, the minute they step onto our campus. So there are so many different things that we have to look at. We have to be able to create that empathy and sympathy for our students, for our parents, and for each other as staff and educators to be able to create that better world that Ms. Carey was speaking to earlier. So again, whether Just Communities is here 5 years, 10 years down the line, I hope that we'll continue doing this work, because this is not work that's ever going to go away. This is something that is going to be needed for a very long time. I'd love to see the world that doesn't need it, but for now we have to attack it in multiple fashions and make sure that we are being respectful, we are being open and having conversations with each other so that we can create more understanding. And so that's my anecdotal.
Thank you, board members, for all of the comments, and I certainly echo each and every one of them. I just have one question, Ms. Carey. There was some mention about the curriculum being on our website. Is that possible, or just so that it's the correct information out there as opposed to misinformation?
Yeah, I know that we've had that confusion in recent weeks about the veracity of the curriculum materials. It would be atypical for us to make curriculum that is as extensive as the curriculum of Just Communities publicly available. It would be out of step with what we do in general with curriculum, even for our instructional program, much less the curriculum of partners with whom we contract. I think there are ways in which we can make that visible, but I don't think it would be the appropriate move, especially given the very nuanced, complex, and somewhat sensitive nature of the topics that are unpacked through Just Communities programming, to have
excuse me, I just want to remind everybody this is a respectful process, and we want to give the time due to the speaker at the podium at that time. Can you continue?
I think there might be alternate means for making that curriculum transparent. I certainly understand the desire for that. I understand where that question is coming from. But I would be reluctant to advise that that would be a good precedent to set.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to address that because it has come up in several of the emails coming in as well. And again, I don't need to repeat the comments of our colleagues, and I just have to speak to courage and understanding how difficult it is sometimes to understand another person's journey. But if you've not walked in those shoes, it's hard to understand that. So I'm glad to be part of a district that's willing to make that step, make that difficult step to make sure that we include stories so that we can hear each other, because we all have some sense of bias in one sense. of what we do. And we're all bringing to the table different experiences that we live, or that we've come through. But I think this Just Communities, whether it's Just Communities or any other agency that is helping us get through this process, and it is helping us all get through that process, and we have to be willing to be open to understand how someone may feel or how they don't feel for whatever the reasons are. And I think this is, again, as Ms. Capps has said, this is one strategy in a larger picture of what we got to do to be culturally proficient and help our students and be prepared, as you said, for a world that yet be created. We want to create a different world than what we're having to fight and face about today. And we have to be able to have the courage to be able to do that. And I just want to speak to it personally. You know, being an African-American person coming through a district that someone doesn't understand you, and so you don't understand yourself, and you feel like you shouldn't say anything. And when another person doesn't understand you, it's like, do I exist? But we can't know the feelings of people who don't understand one or the other. When you don't have that feeling, you got to have a conversation to do it. And I think Just Communities and these programs allows that space to happen. This is a very difficult conversation. It's not easy, but sometimes I just get a little weary of explaining, you know, why this or why that. And I think when people ask them, because that's all they know. And so I got to, you know, I don't walk your journey every day, so I want to know, more importantly, what you have to say. I need to understand it, because that way I don't get tired when you ask me something I think you should already know. So I want to be able to understand why. And so I appreciate all the students who've come here. I appreciate every view here. And it's not always hard and it's not always easy to hear, but I appreciate it because now I know you've voiced it, so I understand where you're coming from. And I would rather have a conversation with you than to make assumptions of what I think you're thinking. I'd rather know openly. So I just want to appreciate that, and I want to say that I definitely want to appreciate the work that the staff have done to create this contract today. We asked you to turn some things around. That was one of my concerns in terms of the evaluation pieces, and sometimes the budget wasn't so clear. You've made that very clear. And the comments from Ms. Capps with regards to the evaluation, which was another question that I had. So it's very clear in terms of how this program is going forward. And again, that it is one strategy of many that we've got to do to get us where we initially need to go. Additional comments?
So I move to approve the contract with Just Communities Central Coast.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the 2018-19 grant agreement between the J.S. Bauer Foundation and Santa Barbara Unified District for early education and support program towards school readiness. Dr. Ramirez and Ms. Robertsons.
Hi, good evening, board. And once again, it's a pleasure to be here in front of you. We would like to put forward to you, we're seeking approval for a grant agreement between Santa Barbara Unified School District and the J.S. Bauer Foundation to support early education initiatives, including programming. Just to give you a bit of background, and you have it in your background material, I first and foremost would like to just express our gratitude to the J.S. Bauer Foundation for having been such a tremendous source of support and support of just not only in terms of their financial contributions, but their ability to really help partner with us and enter into a space in the 0 to 5 particularly, where we know that so much important work, development, really begins for our children and for families, in fact. So what you have here is a grant agreement, and it delineates 3 specific areas in which the J.S. Bauer Foundation will support us and continue their support, primarily in the, first and foremost, in the social emotional area. I'd like to just add that that is has in many ways proven to be a proof point upon which the partnership with CALM for socio-emotional learning in our elementary schools was originated and served to validate that partnership even before we entered into it formally this year. Also, additional support through the Kindergarten Readiness Network, that is a coalition of public and private partners in the community with our own preschool programs and leadership to be able to come to a collective impact and an understanding of our practices in support of our students in our preschools. And finally, we are also partnering in a very strategic way with Housing Authority, Santa Barbara Housing Authority, to be able to be more readily available to provide outreach and to meet people where they are out in the community, and just continue to push out into the community where families and parents most often are. As you know, our preschools, particularly in the, not so much preschool children, but our 0 to 3 space is not a captive audience, certainly different than our preschools or any other grade span within our district. So once again, very grateful to the J.S. Bauer Foundation, to Santa Barbara Ed Foundation, who has supported us in that, and I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions? Ms. Parker?
I need to learn Mr. Paredes Ulloa's technique. I was watching you. I wanted to say thank you also to the J.S. Bauer Foundation, and to point out that this is absolutely part of a network of supports that we have in place. And I know that Ms. Sims-Moten is probably going to want to speak to this particular item. But I did have one quick question, and that is, it talks about the final report. Are there any other parameters around the final report besides what's listed here? And is it Ms. Robertson that would be writing that, or would it be you, Dr. Ramirez?
It would be, there aren't any additional, thank you for the question, Ms. Parker. There aren't any additional components. We've been, this agreement is one that has very carefully been written over the years and evolved as additional information has been requested or been made available. These are the only parameters that I'm aware of. And as far as the authoring of the report, it will be primarily Ms. Robertson. That'll be something that we will partner with, and you will see one of the commitments that I'll bring the board back to from Mr. Matsuoka when the conversation emerged about an LCAP as a foundational piece to an interim strategic plan. Was one of those pillars is early childhood. And so you will see reference to certain components of this, both in LCAP and in an emerging interim strategic plan. So just to answer your question directly, the authoring will be most likely led by Ms. Robertson, who knows the program most intimately, but it will be, certainly we will be there to support.
Last week I had a conversation with John Clark, and I mean, the Bauer Foundation's been investing for over a decade, and so we had I mean, it's embedded in this research project, but he is very interested in the longitudinal effect of preschool, KSEP, and now that we have, 4 years of data in CAS, but now realize CAS starts at 3rd grade, so there's a bit of a lag to seeing the longitudinal effect, but we are now starting to get into trying to correlate CAS results, our core academic evaluation by the state, back to KSEP, and then the work of our preschools. So we're starting to dive into that longer longitudinal analysis.
Yeah, Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
I want to thank you for working on that tonight.
I'm working on it.
First, yes, I'd like to also thank John Clark and the Bauer Foundation for their generosity with working with our district. And also, I love the scope of this. I really appreciate the fact that we're working with Housing Authority. I think that's a really important population that we need to be working with. That, at least in my experience as a professional educator in the district, or working in education in the district for the last 10 years, has been hit or miss when it comes to outreach and services provided. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's meh. So I appreciate the fact that we're working with the Bauer Foundation to continue this and really strengthen this up. I did have one question about payments. Brian, if you could scroll that down. So I know that keep going. It's like almost last page. I think it's the next page down. There it is, right page. I know that the total of the contract's 196. I was just curious about the 107 is the first payment, I'm assuming, and then they mentioned an additional payment will be made in 2019. Is that in addition to the 196, or is that part of the 196? I just wanted to clarify.
That would be the additional amount beyond the 107 and in support of the total 196.
I was a little hopeful that maybe the Bauer Foundation was willing to put in a little extra if there was enough need. So dashed my hopes, Ms. Dr. Ramirez.
Well, what I can say is that John Clark has consistently been one of our strongest advocates out in the community, much as the board has recognized. We all recognize that as well. And he has the uncanny ability to be able to support us as he sees that the needs are there. I don't think that the needs have ever escaped him or the foundation. So, and I'm not trying to commit Mr. Clark to anything, but rather just make reference to how responsive he's been throughout. And so we're just very grateful for this, but we also understand that those needs through close communication, have certainly evolved over time. And he's also allowed us the opportunity in certain instances and the trust and confidence to be able to shift should the need arise over time, which has been great to have that level of trust.
And I also want to add that I've worked with organizations that I've been on the board for. I've worked with the Bauer Foundation, and the fact that the Bauer Foundation has been willing to fund us for as long as they have really says a lot about how we do our work and how we're willing to really keep ourselves accountable, because I know if we're not, John Clark is going to keep us accountable, and the minute we don't, that funding goes away. So again, I think it's big kudos to our district that we can maintain this relationship and that we continue this relationship foreseeably down the road. And I just, again, props to our district, and I hope we keep doing the work that inspires Bauer Foundation and other foundations to support our district.
Thank you. I did have one question. So under number 5, I believe, where it speaks about the grant will remain effective July 2017 and end June 2019. So is this a continuation of the existing grant, or?
It is a continuation of an existing grant, primarily because there has been, this is a more recent development in support of Calm Services. What we are trying to do is really shift toward a PK6 model, and this is to help offset some of the cost of that model in the elementary space. As I oftentimes reference with staff, our parents see us as a district, they see us as a school. They don't necessarily adhere to distinctions by grade span. So it's just been our effort, and through Dr. Waganick's efforts to be able to create a really consolidated view, and that's something that we're still working through. But so it is a continuation of a past contract for the specific purposes of Calm partnership.
Well, I appreciate that, and I certainly appreciate the connection of making that seamless connection from zero all the way up to the preschool, all the way to the next level. There's a movement to really align both the 0 to 5, birth to 5, with the K through 12, and knowing the importance of, as we are doing early identification in those early years, to maintain those gains, we really have to be aligned with the K through 12 system. So there's a huge effort to make that so in terms of that, so that we are united in one voice with regards to our children, and then also we're able to better appreciate from both sides what is needed, you know, to minimize on our side the interventions that have to happen in those later years, because it may not have been caught in those early years. So I appreciate that connection. And I certainly want to thank the Bauer Foundation. First Five Santa Barbara County has worked with them long time to focus on those early years. So when I seen this come across, I was really happy to see that we're continuing to move to aligned, starting from those early years all the way up through our 12th grade to be able to do that. So I appreciate the effort that continues to make that happen.
Certainly, and Ms. Sims-Morton, I just wanted to offer up something that I think you'll appreciate. Moving back to Mr. Baradeso-Yoa's comment about our partnership with the Housing Authority, we have a family liaison that has been working and being visible and active, developing relationships, not only professionally and personally, but on behalf of the district, to be able to outreach to those parents that are not yet part of our system, and just establish a human contact at a very early point in a child's development. We're not where we need to be, certainly, but it has been very intentional work on our behalf. The other thing that I would point to is something that maybe we haven't alluded to, which is this pre-K to TKK articulation and alignment. That is something that the subtleties of that are incredible. That work, I see it the most visibly at Harding, where those classrooms are literally next door to one another, and those age groups are so closely aligned to 3 to 5, 3 to 6 space. Although every year is a significant portion of a child's entire lifespan at that time. Nevertheless, the level of just collaboration and collegiality that we've started to see emerge in those teachers and in that group, and we have pockets of that emerging, which help just substantiate the model that I know you'd wish for us to have and that we're trying to build. So I just didn't want to waste an opportunity to bring to the board's attention that although we are talking about specifically approval for a contract here, there are some important pieces of programming that I think we need to just do a better job of sharing with you, so that you can really know what is occurring and the degree of work that is happening in our preschool, in our 0 to 5 space.
I appreciate that. I remember back 20 years ago when First Five first came about, we used to have a relationship where we would fund for a time for the kindergartners to meet with preschoolers to make sure that when the kids are coming to kindergarten, how much more ready they could be with having that articulation. So I just want to let you know, this is good to see. And as First Five Santa Barbara counties, it's a commitment to make sure that we're supporting not only efforts at the state to make sure that we're aligning, but also at the local level, how we can strengthen our relationships with the school districts in general to make sure that we're making sure we're keeping in focus those early years. That's a critical piece to the success of the later years.
And
so thank you.
Last comment that I'll make is these are efforts that will be more appropriately and clearly delineated in our LCAP, because we do have that fifth goal that is oriented around early childhood education.
Appreciate that. Any additional comments from the board? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you.
Next, we are speaking to the board action on student discipline education code. Oh, I was trying to get fast. I had it checked off already. Thank you. We'll move to number 3, sorry. Approval of career technical education facilities program at Dos Pueblos High, reapplication for CTEFP funds for the manufacturing and product development sector. Ms. Carey, that's you.
I'll present this topic. As I shared in the narrative, this is really a resubmission with minor edits of the proposal that the board approved. Let's see, that was November, or that was a year ago. And that grant submission was successful. The team received $1.3 million in state funding. the total allotment in that sector is $3 million to a district or to a school. So Amir, Shair, and Emily they're probably working on it literally right now to put the final touches on. And so they need board approval of this submission. It's the same level of detail that you approved a year ago, and this will allow them to apply for an additional $1.7 million. The match for this is being provided by the DPEA Foundation, because we did our match out of Measure I the first time, and they, as you were informed, I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago, they are in a major campaign to raise probably millions of dollars. So there's a statement in there that the foundation will provide the match. If they don't raise it, the district is not obligated to receive those funds. Okay, so any questions?
Yeah, thank you. These are big numbers, and I just was hoping, and I waded through the grant proposal, but if you could speak to just the life skills that this will allow our students to achieve. I think it's just, this is a California Department of Education grant, and it's extremely wonky. I found myself having to look up acronyms, and so I think if you could just step us back a little bit to describe the vision here behind the wonkiness.
I would love to. So I think every board member has seen DPEA either walk through the building or at least been there for the open houses in the May event. What students produce there is extraordinary. What's missing is, so they do all the engineering, the design in the current facility. What is lacking, you could call it a manufacturing floor. So it's product development. So really you could think of, so you've got the back-end design team. What they need is a space to start producing these products. And what they want to do is make it a showcase where people can learn about the projects as they're being built. So you can think of it as an extension of DPEA, but it'll be a large space where now they'll have room to build out their projects, and really they want to invite the world to see what it's like to build out projects. So it's really, it's like the manufacturing plant of an R&D space. That's a good way to think of it. And that is a new pathway. I think it's one of the 14 pathways. In my mind, I don't think a lot of schools and districts think about product design and manufacturing, because that just takes a lot of infrastructure.
I'm just looking to see, so if this gets submitted, it looks like in February we would find out if it could pass on to final project review, and then we would hear in June whether or not this piece of it got funded. Is that correct? It looks like June of 2019.
Let's see, I think preliminary news is February about whether they met the criteria, and then the funding question will follow. Yes, sounds like June.
Yeah. All right. I'm very much in favor of moving forward with this. I think it's a terrific project that they've been undertaking, and I'm pleased that they have circled back with the district to reapply to try to maximize what we can do at Dos Pueblos. So that's terrific. And I'll go ahead and move approval of the Career Technical Education Facilities Program at Dos Pueblos High School, reapplication for CTEFP funds for the manufacturing and product development sector.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Let me add a comment. The board will receive a draft of the MOU between the district and the DPEA Foundation. Production-wise, we're trailing by a month of what we promised you, but the thing that we just had to wait for is now we're starting to get the building construction estimates in, and so now the foundation is starting to wrap their head around what fundraising goal that they have to hit, and we're trying to embed that in the MOU with deliverables and language. So you're going to see that as a first draft. Ms. Jate will present that because I will be at a conference, and then we'll ask the board for approval at November 14th. So you'll get a first reading and then final approval, because there's big commitments in there. At the November meeting, as we march down this road, we will be asking the board to approve a design contract with KBZ to design to the full vision. And there's some stepping out on both sides, us and the foundation, but we've got some safeguards. You know, if the fundraising doesn't work, we can step back at different points. So that's coming to you at the next board meeting.
Thank you. Now we will move to number 4, Board Action on Student Discipline Education Code 489118, case number 2018-1901.
Yes, in the case of 201819-01, we move to approve the stipulated, I move to approve the stipulated agreement for full expulsion for 2 semesters.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next, number 5, approval of salary reallocation and revised job description, purchasing manager. Mr. Becchio.
Thank you, Ms. Sims-Moten, members of the board. Ms. Chate and I and members of the executive cabinet have worked quite a bit on what you have before you tonight, which is really a change in job description and also a reallocation of salary at the same time. This is the purchasing coordinator position, and you'll see the job description that we've submitted has in green some of the new items that have been added since 2008. I'll highlight a couple of those for you. This particular position is, first of all, it is the lowest coordinator position on the management schedule. Currently sits at a range 14. This position directs and manages, supervises probably around 9 employees. Evaluates 9 employees. We have added the travel program, the purchasing of all the travel program conferences, et cetera. Civic use, the E-rate program, and also we mentioned food services, which has expanded quite a bit over the years, and which does have a direct impact on this position. So the proposal really is to take this position and change it to range 19, which is a range that sits right with several other coordinators. And the impact, the fiscal impact, which you have in front of you, is about $14,000 a year, $14,500. Welcome any questions you might have.
Ms. Parker.
Thank you, Dr. Becchio. I just wanted to touch base on where this fits in terms of other school districts. I'm assuming that there are purchasing managers that you've correlated salaries with. If you could just speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did. We looked at a couple other districts. I want to say it was Ventura Unified, and do you have the other? What was the other one we looked at? The other district? I don't remember. You know, this is a really. It was really tricky to look at other districts because it's hard to take a look at their salary schedule and really see what is a purchasing coordinator there and how does it compare to what a purchasing coordinator is in our district. And so I had a really tough time with that analysis in trying to figure out. What I found more, us and Cabinet found more helpful was taking a look at the job responsibilities within our salary schedule and knowing those positions so deeply, just trying to really figure out where does that land in comparison to what else we have going on in the district. That was actually more accurate. I was not able to get a good gauge of where that person and what they do actually sits on somebody else's salary schedule.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That makes sense.
We did try to look at that, though.
Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
So I just wanted to clarify, is this position currently filled, or is this okay,
It's currently filled.
And was this something that came from the staffer through CSEA, or what was the genesis?
This came through, because it is a position that's overseen by Ms. Chate's department. It's in fiscal services, and so the proposal came forward from Ms. Chate's office, and then it came to HR, and then it went to Cabinet for Cabinet to vet the proposal.
And just kind of like a side, because I'm obviously part of a union as well, because I work at CC, but I was just wondering for reclassifications of this type, is there a timeline, and is that pretty well advertised to our staff? Just curious.
Are you referring to CSEA or?
reclassification of jobs in general, like in this case.
So repeat the question.
So is there like a time, was there a time frame that this is supposed to be done through, and is this advertised pretty well to the staff in our district? I was just.
No, so the process probably started a couple months ago with writing up a proposal, and then HR looks at it, and then we take it to executive cabinet. Then we bring it to the board. After that, what we'll do is go ahead and whatever your decision is, we'll go ahead and implement that decision. Staff would be notified. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Ms. Parker?
That raises another question for me. Purchasing coordinator, is that a CSEA position?
It's a classified management position.
Classified management, okay. So that was my question. So it's not in CSEA and it's not changing it. Okay,
No.
thank you.
Any additional comments or questions? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Board, this is additionally the time that we normally take a break between our action items and a discussion. We have been sitting here quite a minute, so you want to take at least a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to call us back to our meeting, reconvene. Okay. And our first under our report and discussion agenda is review and discussion of documentation regarding the acquisition of 30 minutes. So my little crew talking over there, we got a meeting going on. So we have a request to speak.
Okay, Dr. Lanny Ebenstein is our one and only speaker. Thank you.
Members of the board, Dr. Matsuoka, I want to congratulate the board and Dr. Matsuoka for bringing the district to this point. Many previous school boards and superintendents have attempted to acquire the National Guard Armory, but you have the distinction of having succeeded or being at the point of success in that endeavor. And I congratulate you for your efforts. I think that the $11.6 million figure, I believe that's the final figure in the documents, is a reasonable and a fair figure. I think that the long-term use of the site for the community will be exceptional. I think that the idea of having a master planning process after the site is acquired is the best way to determine its future use. So once again, congratulations and good luck. Thank you very much.
Mr. Matsuoka?
I would like to recognize former board member Gail Idelson, who is here tonight, who is part of the prior board, and I'm sure you guys moved this item along during your time, so thank you for being here. All right, if I could have the staff in the projection room, let's start with the Google Map view. I think that's the best way to get oriented with this amazing piece of property. So while they're loading it up, a picture will be worth, 11.6 million words. And if we could turn it to a satellite view so we can see the actual space. All right, what is so significant about this property is if you zoom in a little bit, there you go. All right, the National Guard Armory, it's bordered by 4 streets, De La Guerra, Quarantina, Can Perdido, Nopal. It is a full city block. I mean, that's in Santa Barbara, I bet there's not a single piece of property that you could buy that's a full city block anymore. Maybe someday El Paseo, but just to realize that we are on the verge of purchasing 4.7 acres. And now if you will zoom back out, we will own contiguous property from Coda Street, Santa Barbara Junior High, all the way up to Anapamu. The fact that this sits between 2 of our secondary schools on the east side is just tremendous. I mean, to be able to tie that all together is it's really an opportunity of a lifetime for this community. We have many ideas. The community has spoken about them in the past. You know, we look forward to a community-wide conversation about the use of this property. But to realize this it's really been a 25-year conversation for Santa Barbara. And we get to be part of closing the deal. I mean, we're just the last people to finish it off. So now if we could go to the slide deck, and then we'll just go through some important info. All right, as the slide deck comes up, so this has been a process in motion for decades. And I would say a key piece of legislation that really got this moving was Assembly Bill 2247, sponsored by then Assembly member Doss Williams. And that gave us the rights to purchase this, either us or the city. The city deferred to us, and so we have been in pursuit of this property. We also want to recognize the very important support of Monique Lamone and her office. I mean, she brokered the meetings in Sacramento. Her staff was directly involved. The due diligence for us on the price was important. And I mean, we sat in her little office in Sacramento and had DGS and the military there. Everybody was at the table. And just know, community, that Monique represented you well. She facilitated the process. We had the second meeting in Santa Barbara where their appraisers literally saw the building. We held the meeting at the Armory so they could see it. With all of that, the final price stayed at $11.6 million. We believe it's a fair price. Sure, we'd like it for less, but you know, this property is going to become more valuable over time. And so for us to have the opportunity in today's dollars to purchase it is an opportunity of a couple generations. And then in the next slide, we do acknowledge that there are some existing conditions that we will have to address in the future. The buildings are old, and so we'll have to address structural issues. We have learned that there's soil liquefaction in that area, as we've learned with the Santa Barbara Junior High project. It's solvable. It's just you have to put foundations down to the bedrock. The lead dust, because it was an armory, there's lead. The military has taken 2 passes at it. We will still have to do another final pass on the lead. It's contained. It's mostly underground. There was that underground shooting range. And then there are historical landmark designations on the building. And so we'll have to work with those agencies that have expressed desires about landmark designations. But we have withheld from doing any developmental design conversations because we need to own the building. We need to have the keys to the gate so that we can start thinking through the process. And we'll have lots of stakeholder involvement, certainly the east side, but we really need to involve our entire district. We know that Santa Barbara City College is very interested in a possible partnership. And I would like to extend a conversation out to CSU Channel Island. I hear there's some really good leadership out there, and they're the closest CSU to us. And so it's great to have UCSB right in our backyard, but I think a lot of our students matriculate from City College to Channel Island. And so I think there's lots of opportunities for partnerships. Next slide, please. So why? Why should we do this? Well, it's been a desire of the community for 25 years. It's a commitment that the prior board made when they voted to put Measure I on the ballot, expressly line item the purchase and use of the Armory. Our state legislatures, Doss and Monique, have been just actively involved in supporting us, and this would just be a show of appreciation and respect for their efforts. Land in Santa Barbara is always going to become more valuable. I mean, that's just a given, and land in Santa Barbara is scarce. And I think here's probably the most important thing. We will control the future destiny of that important piece of property. If it went to the open market, who knows who would buy it? And who knows what the use would be? It could be commercial, it could be residential. This way we will ensure that it will stay in the public agency's hands as we develop that for community use. I think that's probably one of the most compelling arguments of why we should buy it. So I think that's the last slide. Oh, so in this packet for the board's review are the 4 documents that you will be approving at the next board meeting. And we do need a final decision on October 23rd because the state has set a deadline of October 31st to close the deal. So there's all of the documents. I gave you a quick overview of CEQA. What is an MND? And you go to that, I think it was the top of page 9. The magic words you are looking for is, this does not require a full environmental impact report. So DUDEC has issued a statement that we can declare effectively that there are no large-scale impacts on the neighborhood. So that's a really important step for us as a district. So there you go. Questions or comments from our school board?
Yes. Mr. Paredes Ulloa.
Just want to say how excited I am about the possibility of this purchase. As somebody who went to both Santa Barbara Junior High and Santa Barbara High School, I always thought it was a little strange that I would have to walk right past the Armory to get to my next school, and to think of having this property as part of SBUSD, proper and, you know, hopefully forever and ever. It brings me a lot of joy, especially because that's my neighborhood, that's where I grew up, that's where I spent a lot of my time. But I'm also really excited about the idea of making the brainstorming a public process, because as you noted, there are so many different interests in any kind of property. My one wish is, regardless of what we use it for, whether it's a nature-based learning, whether it's a sports field, whatever it is that it really does add value. It really does enrich the educational experiences of our students and adds value to the things that we already do and gives us more opportunities. We are so lucky to live in Santa Barbara, where we have partners like the Bauer Foundation, we have Raytheon, we have all these different orgs up and down Santa Barbara and Goleta that, or across the entire county even, that I think it really opens up the opportunities for creating new ideas, creating new processes, or just new resources for our students. So again, I'm really excited, and I'm hoping, I know it's not going to be a short turnaround before we put something on there. There's going to be a lot of work to do, and I commend Mr. Matsuoka, the staff, and future boards who are going to have to work on that, because it is going to take some time. But I think a really big step, as Dr. Ebenstein said, is getting that purchase in the first place and going from there, and again, of course, including the public with that.
Ms. Parker.
Thank you. I want to say just thank you so much to the members of the community who have fought for this for so many decades. Dr. Ebenstein, I know that you would say that you were one of many. You were very persistent, however. And there were many, many years where I would honestly just, smile and nod as the Armory advocates would come to us, because honestly, it became clear right after I started on the school board that the National Guard, it was just a huge challenge to try to work with another public agency in that way, and it was going nowhere, and I saw it going nowhere, and I really feel so fortunate that this is wrapping up before I step off this board. And I want to give a huge thank you to the voters of Santa Barbara, Goleta, Nolita, everybody who stepped forward, Montecito, because this will be a community treasure that I think will benefit the entire South Coast. So I'm saying all of this at the same time, slightly fearful that something terrible will happen in the next 2 weeks, because it has taken so much to get here. But I am so looking forward to this as an action item the next time we meet. I do want to stress that the district certainly did its due diligence. All of its representatives did, in terms of trying to negotiate a fair price. And we're moving forward with $11.6 million, which is not dissimilar to what we originally projected. The place needs more work than we had originally hoped. It will be quite some time before students can use this. And I want the community to recognize that, because I see it's taken 2 years from the bond being passed for us to even get to this point where we're about to take action. And already we're starting to get that, they're about to take action. Let's set up the committees. What are we going to do with this property? And I agree with Mr. Paredes Ulloa. It's fantastic to think of this as a real community conversation about how the space is used. But I do want the public to understand that it will be a long time before this property is safe, just basic safe for student use, and that's beyond any future development of it. But I'm thrilled. I'm really looking forward to our next meeting, and I won't say congratulations to the community yet. We'll save that for 2 weeks from now.
Ms. Capps?
Thank you. I have just 3 points I want to make that have somewhat been discussed. But one is that being at Harding yesterday, Harding University Partnership, to see the first bond come to life, part of the bond measure come to life, and to see how proud those kids are, and to think back to a lot of time that was spent trying to pass that bond. I was happy to be a volunteer on that campaign effort and going around and talking to people. And really, when it would come up, the Armory was part of this bond package. That's really a connection point for the public. And so I just want to remind that we owe the voters the due diligence that has gone on here to make this possible. And we're moving forward with the hope that it will be possible, because again, that is a sacred vow, I think, that you make as people who are in this position to say yes or no to taxpayer funding, especially when it's coming from a bond where people actually checked a box and said, yes, this is something that we want for this community. The second part is about the community. I just had one parent anecdotally over the weekend said, oh, well, that's just another thing for Santa Barbara High, kind of along the lines of the Peabody Stadium. And I just, I think it's important to say that as a board member, I welcome the wonderful, robust conversation that will happen should this move forward, to really engage the community in what kind of community benefit this will be, not just for one neighborhood, not just for 2 schools, but rather for the entire South Coast, to really, I think, put us on the map as a national education corridor between Santa Barbara Junior High, this beautiful space, and Santa Barbara High School, but for the entire community and district. And lastly, I also view this as a down payment on the future. Having grown up here, you look at all of the beautiful places, and some of which are no longer there, and their developments and things like that. And you think, oh man, if we'd only just kept that beautiful house or that beautiful structure. A lot of places have been preserved because we have those kind of leaders here in our city council and our planning development, et cetera, that really do think and make tough decisions that aren't always the easy fiscal decision to make, but are really a down payment on the future of this beautiful community where we live. So I look forward, like Ms. Parker, to the next meeting. Thanks.
The good thing about speaking last, all these wonderful things that have said help me. I just get to echo those comments. I certainly want to just add to what the other folks have said, simply thank you. And to be in a community that supports the education system, supports our school and our students, is a great place to be. And the opportunities that will present this purchase of this land in the future, what it's going to be, the opportunities that it's presenting to our students is just beyond, measure that we can look at now. So I want to also thank the future boards. The past boards have put the work in, and the future boards that will continue that work. So if there's no further comments or questions, we'll move to our last item in terms of under the discussion agenda. The first reading and discussion of 5 board policies, Series 6000 instruction. Ms. Carey and Dr. Ramirez.
So good evening once again, board. Thank you. I'll go ahead and get us started. As you, just to continue down the path of getting updated versions of the board policies to you, we have a series of board policies in the 6000 series, largely impacting instruction. Both Ms. Carey and I are here to present them to you. I will make reference to the background material that was submitted for your consideration. I actually want to start with Board Policies 6161, Equipment, Books, and Materials, as well as 6162.52, High School Exit Exam. You have a bit of background there in addition to the language, but the reason that I've started there is because these are actually deletions that have been either subsumed under other policies, and you will see these coming from us in the 6000 series, or they have been eliminated, as is the case with the high school exit exam, because it is an exam that is now no longer operational. So that's just a bit of background on those two. As it pertains to Board Policy 6161, 6112, and 6117, all three of those pertain largely to the calendar or the school day. And you will see those articulated with improvements or changes in language highlighted as you've become familiar with in past patterns, with the green being the proposed language and the red being the strike through. So I don't know if it would be best to go in sequence, but I would certainly open it up to the board for discussion or any guidance of our time.
Ms. Parker?
And I only have comments on one policy, and so I don't know if it's okay if I just jump to that one.
Sure.
And that is Board Policy 6117, and that's the year-round schedules. And I guess one question I had on that is this CSBA language that I'm looking at? Okay. I would recommend that we delete the opening paragraph. And that is not a belief of the governing board. And while at the same time I understand why we need to have this policy, there are times in the future where we might need a year-round schedule, but I would look at it probably around facilities impacts rather than it being for benefiting student learning. And since we've been moving away from year-round schedules, I would simply suggest that this start at before approving a year-round program in any district school. That would be my suggestion.
My question is on the days, the change of the days, if that, again, is that a CSBA recommendation to move from 180 to 175? And I imagine that's just to give more flexibility, but we're not planning on moving to 175. So I'd rather just keep it at 180 unless we do decide, because I do hear from parents who think that the school year is too short as it is, and if it sort of signals that we're changing it to 175 when we're not. So how about we just change it to 175 if we ever do, if that would be okay.
So in direct response to your question, this is CSBA language. And I imagine that it's just to bring it, or what I know to be true is that it's brought in alignment with Ed Code. There is no plan to move anywhere beyond or under the 180 threshold that we've become accustomed to. So can you repeat your recommendation, please?
Well, if it's required by Ed Code, I just wanted, one more clarification and a suggestion to not make that change, but if you're saying it's required, then certainly I would go along with that requirement. I don't think it is.
If I may, Ms. Moten, just address that. It's not required that you do less than 180. It's just giving a district flexibility, like you could do less. And so I think it'd be fine to say, if you're looking on page 2 where it says each year-round school shall offer a minimum of 175 days, I think it's, to your point, perfectly acceptable for a local board to say shall offer a minimum of 180 days of instruction per school year until unless and until a board directs.
Sure, because thank you, because that would provide then just the communication, I think, around that decision, should that ever happen, and future boards and future administration.
If I could offer just one piece of commentary,
Sure.
I think one of the, this is what I would call an echo back in time. What many districts did prior to the onboarding of LCFF is that through furloughs and through other cost-saving measures that unfortunately did have an impact on school calendars, there was an understanding that that was a strategy. I don't know fully the history here. Ms. Parker would know that well, but I think that's what that's alluding to, but we can certainly revisit based on the guidance and wishes of the board.
Thank you.
Additional comment? Okay, no comment. Okay. Ms. Parker?
That actually brings me back to then to 6111. If we're going to put 180 in the year-round, we should put it in 6111 as well. School calendar, where it refers to the same language. So I would ask for those to be aligned.
Thank you. We will look into that.
Additional comments on the remaining policies? Question? Yes, Ms. Parker.
Long and farewell to the high school exit exam.
Okay, I guess that means there's no additional comments. Okay, Mr. Musso, any comments? Okay, thank you very much.
Would
Are we-
would it be too much of an imposition to ask whether this can come back on consent?
I think so.
Provided we make those changes
those
that the
changes.
board requested?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. All right, and we didn't have any items returned from the consent because no one pulls. So are there any coming events we need to be aware of? I don't think we do. I don't think there's any, is there? Ms. Capps?
Yes, Mr. I have it written down. Ulloa and I will be speaking at Santa Barbara, San Marcos High School, having coffee with the board tomorrow, or Thursday at 5:30. Looking forward to engaging with parents and anyone and staff who show up. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Are there any future agenda items request? Rolling right along. Our next meeting is Tuesday, October 16th, 2018. That's a special board meeting at 5 p.m. at the district office. And then following that is Tuesday, October 23rd, our regular board meeting at 6:30. If there are no objections, I propose we adjourn this meeting and go home. So moved.